another Elsie's Little Pickles, the Pickle Pod for the people, reminding you and encouraging you to continue with the Pickle Pod protest, which is simply just throw a pickle on a MAGA supporter's front porch, take a pickle or picture of that pickle on that porch, and send it to us at elsieslittlepickles.com. With that,
or you can throw the pickle in their face.
That would work too, but that's almost violent, and we don't support any type of political violence.
All right, just rest it gingerly on their forehead.
You can lob a little gherkin, but
you know what I suggest instead of throwing the pickles? Get psychological with it. Just leave one on their porch. They'll notice. They'll be like, "What the fuck? There's a pickle on my porch." Then a couple days later, leave one in their mailbox. And then they'll find it and be like, "What the fuck? There's another pickle." And then couple weeks down the line, you do it again and again and again to the point where you make them a psych case.
I'm actually thinking about putting googly eyes on the pickles.
I'm thinking about shoving one up a tailpipe in a vehicle with a whistle.
Unfortunately, Cybertrucks do not have a tailpipe.
Exactly. So. I did see, speaking of Cybertrucks and that, I did see, it's very rare that I give Trumpers a kudos, but this guy said, he goes, "Let me get this straight. Now you can drive around with a swastika on your painted on your Tesla, and you can just pretend it was vandalism."
Yeah. You can just do that out in the open now. I got pumped.
It was funny. I mean, like, look, funny's funny no matter what. That's been the rule in the house from, day one. Colton would tell you that. And like I said, just so everyone knows, we do have a full pickle barrel here. We got Kiefer, we got Colton, you got me. And now we got Kiefer with the news.
Well, I would like to wish you both a happy Liberation Day Eve.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, because you know what? After tomorrow, it's quite possible that everyone's 401ks and stock investments and all that shit goes bye-bye. I think you're going to see a big tanking.
This is the most existential dread I've felt for the government in quite a long time.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the interesting thing. On, I think it was Monday, I believe, Newsmax, which is just propaganda bullshit, state TV.
It is literally just a fascist pump piece.
They went public on the stock market, right? So they started out at $10, right? $10 a share. Seems reasonable, $10 a share. Today, they were at like $233
on the street.
But that's what?
So that's cheaper than a blowjob on the street.
Yeah, exactly. And now they're at like 233, I think it was. I'd have to check to see what it closed at, but I saw it at 233 today. So are you fucking kidding me? In 2 days, it went from $10 to 230 some odd dollars or more.
I call bullshit.
I call pump and dump. I do. I call pump and dump, especially going into this Liberation Day bullshit. I don't know, man.
And at the same time, when the Daily Wire is going out of business.
Yeah. So I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. All right. Sorry, Keith. Go.
That's all right. I just figured, should we actually wear little frilly hats for Liberation Day?
Oh, I think we probably should. It's just, I don't know that.
Maybe play a kazoo.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I didn't prepare for it because I just found out about Liberation Day being called Liberation Day, like 2 days ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean.
I heard it about a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
That he was planning Wednesdays.
And also, you got to love with this whole Liberation Day, we're imposing like reciprocal tariffs. No one knows what tariffs are going to be put out there. Except for Trump and his administration.
Do you really think they know, though?
I don't think they do.
I think they're just going to go with whatever number Trump says. Quite honestly, that's what I think is going to actually happen. But the fact that, like, there haven't been
There's a lot of tariffs in the way of tariffs.
See, I think I should be clear. I knew that the April 2nd tariff shit was going to happen. I just didn't know that he was calling it Liberation Day. Which is I don't even know how you make that connection.
We got to do the tariffs on April 2nd because, well, it would have been April 1st. but then everyone would think it was a joke.
It's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. So I guess my point is, first and foremost, this does seem to be not only Liberation Day as far as it stands with all of the tariffs, but the tariffs and the trade war that he started with Canada and Mexico. This all seems like self-inflicted injuries, and I don't think that it's going to be short-term pain. I don't.
Never felt less liberty than I do going into Liberation Day.
Yeah, what are we being liberated from? Exactly.
Free will. Free will.
Yeah, all
Financial
that freedom, all that freedom seems like quite the heavy burden for you to carry.
Let me
help you with that.
I think we're going to be liberated from our investments, liberated from our 401ks, liberated from unions, liberated from overtime pay, liberated from like all of those things. I can see us being liberated from.
As the Drew and Mike show, or Drew Lane show, I should say now, says, serious issue, shallow thought. Anybody notice Trump's hair lately?
Yeah, it's gotten bad.
Going very wispy thin.
It's like thin and pushed down.
Yeah.
Like flat, like almost as if Elon has been resting his beer mug on his
head. Or his balls.
Yeah, either way. Well, I don't really think his balls are that big.
I was going to say, Elon does not have, he's not packing that much meat. Like, that's not doing it.
I feel like
what was it that you were saying? What was it you were saying earlier about his ex coming out?
Yeah, Grimes, his ex-wife and father of at least one of his children, said, wouldn't it be a shame if hypothetically there was a multi-billionaire that has their fingers in the government that was into pegging? Wouldn't it also be unfortunate if there was a video? Wouldn't it also be unfortunate if I had access to the video?
And see, look, like things like that, they get traction because it doesn't matter if it's true or not. But now I'm not going to ever be able to look at Elon without picturing him getting pegged by Grimes.
No, it's the JD Vance fucks couches.
Exactly.
You saw his reaction sitting at the inauguration where he was like seeing things.
Yeah, and doing the weird neck
he
roll.
reset.
He does the same thing while being pegged.
Oh, probably.
He just goes quiet and stares to the distance.
Like a dog taking a shit.
Oh my God.
He's even got the same back posture.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you about my dog taking a shit in Arkansas?
No, but I'm sure.
It was nighttime and I was walking him, 2:00 in the morning. And, cause I'm up late and I take him out to go take a shit and we're in, it's the woods, it's Arkansas, it's a preserve.
You finished your shit and then you looked over to him.
I took mine on top of his, but
and the next day there was a ranger going, there's a fucking mountain lion.
He's got his butt down. He's pushing at the edge of the woods and my flashlight hits a deer, which is like 5 feet from him that he did not know was there.
Oh shit.
Because his nose only works for beef and pot roast.
And it's very directional, it sounds like.
The deer runs, right? And that's when he notices the deer, when it sprints off running, which he wants to chase it, but he's also pinching a loaf. So he does this look back at me like, I don't know what to do. And he's moving his butt like he wants to run. He's ready to
take off, but he's still mid shit.
But he's still mid pinching.
I think we've all been there.
So he just kind of staggers. I don't know what to do. And it's one of those moments where I wish I had a camera.
Oh, that's fucking great. All right. I'd love to keep talking about your dog taking shit, but.
Oh, I could talk about it all day long. In other news, Greenland's new prime minister hits back at Trump's aggressive takeover threats.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you what he said, though, because that
why?
would just be, expected.
Yeah, exactly. All right, what the fuck he say?
Well, I mean,
he said he advised a calm response to the threats, saying, "We should not react out of fear. We should react with calm, dignity, and cohesion. That is how it was yesterday, how it is today, and how it will be in the future. But we do not belong to anyone else, and we decide our own future, Mr. Trump.
See,
Didn't call him President Trump.
Uh,
Called him Mr. Trump.
Ooh, danger.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, like the best way to beat fascism is just to clown the fascists.
Yeah, it really
And
is. It drives them nuts.
The best way to defeat someone that wants power like that is to point and laugh.
Mm-hmm. I find that works even in everyday life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you
Some power hungry maniac at work.
Well,
you can
either
joke out of them.
yeah. I mean, power hungry maniac at work, a fucking
Start a rumor. How are they going to track it back to you? HR doesn't know shit.
Exactly. Yeah. Phil in accounting likes
you
to get
see by
pegged like
chance-
Elon.
I'm not sure who wrote it, but it had to do with Belgium and Denmark responding to Caroline Clown, the press secretary,
Mhm.
Nazi Barbie.
Oh yeah.
I think one of them called her Nazi Barbie.
She's 28 and looks 40.
Yeah,
And she's 28.
and she
Fascism ages you.
does not like anyone talking about her nose job. Apparently, I just saw that recently.
She's worth about 50 million, right?
I did not know that.
Yes, she's worth about 50 million due to her husband, who's 32 years older than her.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And what does he do?
Property, really.
Okay, so real estate.
I do believe.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
But,
isn't that weird that in Trump's circle there would be
how
realtors?
she had said how if it wasn't for the United States, France and Belgium would be speaking German.
Mm-hmm.
And so this person who was in Belgium,
Don't mind that
responded-
half of Belgium speaks German.
yeah, they actually pointed that out. They have 3 languages there. But Belgium was like, look, you stood on the sidelines for about 6 years before getting involved in World War II. Don't act like you knocked the door down and saved everybody.
Right.
No, and we did the same shit in World War One, but we take credit for because that's part of our myth because we're not that old of a country. We don't have like founding myths. So the recent founding myth is that we saved Europe's ass in World War One when we showed up 8 months out from the end of it.
Yeah.
And
that's not to make
bombing...
light. Wait a minute. That's not to make light of the sacrifice of the soldiers, the American soldiers. You know what I mean?
No,
but
absolutely not.
But there is a level of,
But when you're hedging your bet like that, and then jump in on the side that's like likely gonna win.
Yeah.
By the end of the year, like.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't.
World War II, we at least had a reason to get involved.
You can't play baseball and claim the victory just because you pitched that last inning and the team won. But there was somebody else
pointed out in the conversation how the U.S.'s claim to fame was obviously nuking Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which they're like, can you tell me one thing Japan did besides Pearl Harbor?
Okay, to be fair, not to excuse the nukes, but Japan was, so we sent the nukes at, I believe, the beginning of the month. Japan was planning at the end of the month to send like rockets over to the West Coast that were carrying the bubonic plague.
Yeah. So there was some justification.
The idea was
maybe not for the nuke, but
the attack on Pearl Harbor wasn't carried out like clockwork. There was a very large suspicion that the planes wouldn't even make it.
Yeah.
They didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, they were taking a stab in the dark and got lucky.
They had all of those.
I digress.
All of those.
Yeah, they couldn't have made it back if they wanted.
No, they couldn't.
Well, they were all drugged.
The idea that France was liberated by the U.S. and never said thank you, despite France making it capable for the crazy little colony to be called the United States.
Yeah, I mean, did America say thank you to France for?
No, they
funding our revolution.
Yeah, and this idea
culturally, what is that called? Culture
appropriation.
Yes, appropriation of French fries, which are actually invented in Belgium.
Yeah.
So look,
In the French Quarter, okay, in the French Quarter.
but here's my
Or
problem
you
with
can
this.
get plowed and just pee on the street.
My problem with
Kind
this
of
whole
sounds
thing
like
is
the White House to me.
yeah. Well, you got Kid Rock in there. This is the only executive order I think I actually agree with. Kid Rock pushing him to make sure that prices on aftermarket concert tickets are kept in check.
Yeah, he is doing that. That's one thing I'll give him a little credit for.
I don't
but
give him. I
know
don't
he's
give
gonna
him.
fuck it up.
I don't give Trump credit for that. I give Kid Rock credit for that. He's like, I'm going to use my friendship to get something done for our business. So I give props.
Kid Rock, he hasn't done anything even remotely interesting in like 20 years.
No, again, you got to give credit where credit's due, and I think that based on some of the ticket prices I've seen, online scalpers, etc.
Don't care. You know why I don't care? Because I don't go to big concerts.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm not a big concert guy, but the fact is, I don't think that it's right for a company to be able to go in and buy the entire first 4, 5, 6 rows and then put them online and resell them at 2, 3, 4 times the profit. It should just be first come, first serve. You get what you get and what you can afford.
Yeah,
if congratulations are passed around for anything like that, like keeping the prices down, thank you, Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Pearl Jam has been doing this since the mid '90s. They've been fighting this battle.
Billy Joel,
but also
he buys the first 2 rows, I think, of every one of his concerts, and then has them given out to the people in the farthest rows back.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I mean,
yeah, for me, I like going to concerts, but it is so prohibitively expensive when every venue goes through Ticketmaster. You're buying a ticket for $50 and it ends up being $150.
Right, but and the thing that sucks is like when me and Keith were growing up, you could go and see, let's say as an example,
like $20.
Yeah. So I remember going to see Bon Jovi, and I bought tickets for myself and 2 other people, and I was still under $100.
Yeah.
When you took me to go see Poison and David Lee Roth back in '89.
Oh, Jesus Christ, I fucking forgot about that.
It was the second show ever at the Palace of Auburn Hills. I remember the ticket price.
Do you?
Ticketmaster, yeah.
What was it?
$15.73.
At the height of Poison, at the height of, David Lee Roth solo.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It was a show that he went surfing on the surfboard over the crowd.
Dude,
and then came back
this is the thing.
To the stage.
I took you to that, and this is how bad my memory is. I don't even remember going.
I distinctly, like, granted, David Lee Roth is entertainment, but it was the guitar work of
C.C. DeVille.
No, Steve Vai.
Oh, Steve Vai. Okay, yeah. I thought you were talking.
C.C. DeVille's
Steve Vai
Poison.
is insane.
But it was hysterical because to me, what's stained in my memory is concert. But the memorable part was when David Lee Roth got back to his microphone and then announced, "I forgot the fucking words" to Panama.
Real quick before we move to the next story, just real quick, I would like to know everyone involved's 2 best concerts that you've been to.
2 best.
Phil Collins.
Understandable.
Phil Collins would be one of them. And then probably the Elton John, Billy Joel tour.
You know what's funny? There's this meme that I've seen once or twice that says Billy Joel is just straight Elton John and Elton John is just gay Billy Joel.
Yeah, it's true. In many ways, it's true. And I think even Billy Joel would tell you that. And same with Elton John, because their friendship is very brotherly.
They did a whole tour together.
Yeah, and they're completely opposites, right? And they bust each other's balls all the time. So yeah. But for me, it would have to be the Elton John, Billy Joel.
Freudian slip.
Yeah. And then Phil Collins. And Phil Collins, not because I'm a huge Phil Collins fan, but because it was just a spectacular.
Just that good. Yeah.
It was just that good. Like I didn't even want to go to the concert. And I was like, I don't want this to end because he sounded better live than he did in studio.
Mm-hmm.
B, he
You
was
remember
just
when Billy Joel hit the house with his motorcycle? You don't remember that story?
Mm-mm.
He actually got drunk and he ran his, I think it was his motorcycle into someone's house.
I don't remember that.
Which-
I remember
Yeah,
him a different
he
accident.
jumped up and started singing, "I'm still standing."
All right.
For me, Dead Kennedys at Smalls Bar.
Okay.
It just because it was such a wild experience. It was my first time going in a pit, like the whole nine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously a punk pit is a completely different animal from a metal pit, and I recognize that. But that was my first time in a pit. Had a blast, great time. And then the other one, I would say Green Day. They were one of the last concerts at Joe Louis before they closed Joe Louis to open Little Caesars.
Yeah, that was a great concert.
That was phenomenal. The fact that he was still like so sick
Oh yeah, he was,
and
but
was
sounded
Who was
great.
Green Day.
Green Day,
Green.
and
I mean, we were all the way in the back, nosebleeds, whole nine, and the pyrotechnics off the stage were so huge that we were getting blasted with heat
yeah,
all the way back there.
yeah,
It was
that
just
was
such
a
good
fantastic
experience.
concert. Yeah, I would give that. All right, Kiefer, you.
This is hard to do too. um, fuck.
I'm gonna guess Dropkick Murphys.
No, great, but no. It's really the three that stand out in my mind. And a personal experience at one of my own shows that I'll save that for the end. I'm gonna have to do a 1, 2, and 3
Okay.
really quick. Number 3 was got to be High Loom. Seeing them live, October 1st, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. I can't remember which. But they did 2.5 hours. It's just them.
Wow.
When you go see them live, it's just them because they
Wow,
do
okay.
a long show. 2, it's a hard to do a 1 and 2 with these, but in no particular order. Social Distortion opening up for the Ramones at the
Ooh, okay.
State Theater in Detroit. Fantastic show.
That sounds like it would be a really good one, except for the fact that Joey's kind of like I think he's dead at this point, but he was
Yeah, they're all dead.
very, very conservative towards the
Well,
end.
The not really. You might be confusing Johnny, because Johnny was always super crazy conservative.
Yeah, I might be thinking
And
Johnny.
Joey and Johnny hated each other. They didn't speak for the last 25 years of the band. Little known fact. No, seriously.
They would
they
just show
didn't.
up to the show.
Yes. They hated each other. Very, very deeply.
Fair enough.
And the top spot I'm gonna have to say was the Super Suckers opening up for Nashville Pussy, who opened up for Motorhead.
Ooh, okay.
It was just my first
That's a
time
wild
ever
ride.
seeing the Super Suckers live, and they busted down the door and said, "We're gonna fucking rock your ass."
Yeah, we're here to
And-
prepare you for fucking Lemmy.
And the Nashville Pussy came out and fucking cleared the floor. And then Motorhead hit. It was just one of those concerts where it was the perfect storm of fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody was amazing on that tour.
All
And then
right.
a personal experience live. I
Okay.
gotta point out, my band was playing at the Shelter, which is the basement of St. Andrews. And we were a heavy techno groove type thing. And like a hardcore techno, if you will.
Okay.
And I nudged my singer James and kind of motioned my head to the side of the stage. And on the side of the stage, dancing to our music, just doing his thing, was George Clinton.
Really?
Yeah. They
Very
were playing
cool.
upstairs, but first came downstairs because apparently he heard something he thought was fucking cool.
That's really cool. That's
Yeah.
really
Hell yeah. I would also add just to throw in a third. I would also add, and I'll leave it here. Seeing Turnover live at the Loving Touch, incredible. So Turnover is like an indie band. The Loving Touch is like a very small bar. They do like, honestly, they get like some pretty big names, but typically it's like indie artists.
Mhm.
And Josh,
It's very funny sounding. You got to turn over at the Loving Touch.
Yeah.
Nod,
Yeah,
nudge,
yeah.
nudge.
My buddy Josh texted me, and he goes, a month and a half out, he goes, "Hey, listen to this album. If you like it, I have a spare ticket." And I was like, "Okay." So I listened to it. Great album. And we ended up going. It was probably one of the best small concerts I will ever go to. And Josh and I and Ashley and his girlfriend, we're all gonna be going to see them at the Fox Theater because it's the 10-year anniversary of that album.
And that's this one that you're coming up.
Yeah, at the end of the month.
Excellent. Cool. All right. Back to the news. This is a professional podcast.
Yeah, sorry, quick diversion.
You can tell
As
how
if we're
tech
professionals.
how professional we are.
Trump orders the firing of prosecutors investigating one of his donors.
Is that a shock? Is that a shock?
No.
Because
None at all.
this gets right to, and we'll get into this maybe in a little bit here, but this gets into the current Republican Party as it sits right now wants to destroy the judiciary.
Yeah,
They don't
because
want to be
it's
held
just an
accountable.
Inconvenience.
Yeah, it's an
It's just an
inconvenience.
inconvenience.
They don't want to be held accountable. It's an inconvenience for them to have to deal with the law, unless it's one that they're pushing on somebody else to get other people to be controlled. This Republican Party is from top down becoming a rotten apple.
This says what's his name? Reports that prosecutor Adam Schleifer was fired Friday morning at around 11 a.m. via an email that read, "On behalf of President Donald J. Trump, his former colleagues helped him pack up his office belongings swiftly after the email came through." Just a one-line email from White House staff.
Now, what was his job? Wait a minute, back up a second, because I want to make sure I'm understanding this completely.
He was a federal prosecutor.
With the DOJ.
That doesn't.
It doesn't say. Okay, all right.
Well, I mean, if you're a federal prosecutor, you do work for the DOJ.
Yeah,
so-
just whether he was in Washington or whether he was at some other location.
So far,
Which-
the DOJ has dismissed more than 50 U.S. attorneys and deputies in the past couple of weeks.
You know
which,
what?
Again, speaking of, I just want to point this out as far as the judiciary being an inconvenience to Republicans. They already have the Supreme Court. They paid for that a long time ago. And now they're realizing that state level and like county level judges, there's a lot more of them than they can really manage. So now they're trying to buy the Wisconsin Supreme Court
Yeah,
seat,
yeah,
which we'll be getting results on shortly.
yeah. I can't wait to see how that turns out. I don't think Elon was able to do what he
More than 6 inches.
I really hope not, but we're gonna have to just see.
I don't think that the Republicans are going to win this one, and it's not because Elon didn't bring more Republicans to the voting booths. I think the other side of that is a lot of people who probably wouldn't have participated saw that Elon was trying to buy the vote, and I think you're going to get a lot of pushback on that. So it's not that he didn't increase the Republican voting base. It's just his presence in this has turned off so many people. Oh, by the way, I hear that he's no longer going to be participating come May, because apparently under this.
I also heard that he's handing out $1 million to voters in Wisconsin.
Yes.
Yeah. So he had to amend his statement on that because he was going to get.
Illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal. He was going to get in some pretty hot water by doing it like that. So he instead changed it to anyone that signs up for my event prior to the election
What a
starting
piece of shit.
is entered in the running for $1 million.
Well, you know, I mean,
We changed it into a sweepstakes for coming to his rally, essentially, instead of it being for the election.
yeah, and you know, whatever.
Sweepstakes.
If that's the way that they want to play, let them play that way. I think the voting public is smart enough to see through that, and I think, you know what, I would have gone to it, because if I had the chance to take $1 million of Elon's money and then go, oh, by the way, I didn't vote the way you wanted me to. Yeah. All the sweeter, you know what I mean? So I don't really have a problem with it in that sense, though I see it being a problem because I think it
opens a precedent.
It's setting a precedent. Yeah.
Yep.
But also, I would like to point out with that as well, just real quick. I think enough people are disgusted with what they've seen over the past 3 months. Out of Trump, out of Elon, out of Republicans in general, that I think it's reasonably safe, but it's not a guarantee. It's not a foregone conclusion.
No, it will be what it will be at the end of the night. But to me, I think that the Democrat has a better shot than the Republican does on this one.
I have no hope for anything at this moment.
Well, the thing is,
I don't put anything past how absolutely uneducated and dumb American people are.
I would agree with you on that. However, I would also take that a step further. Sometimes they surprise you, and sometimes it's a good surprise.
I hope so.
Sometimes it's a bad surprise. But I listened to this one lady who was a Trump voter who said no, she did not vote for the Republican. She voted for the Democrat. And when asked why, she said, because I don't like what the administration's doing as far as like abortion and that. So for her, it was simply, I think they've taken steps too far. I think that they need a little bit of a check. And
they showed their hand too quick.
And here I'm going to be, my vote at least is all I can do to check and balance. And that's what I'm doing. So that gave me a little bit of hope, because she was like, no, I voted for Trump, all 3 times. But this time I'm not supporting this candidate because this is too important. So I think you're going to get a lot of that too. And the last news story is about...
Let me speak around my chocolate candy that I shoved into my fat fucking face.
Something about Chuck Astley, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Republican Senator Chuck Grassley plans a bill to stop judges from carrying out their checks and balance power.
See, this is the way that they do things. All right, this is getting to what Mike Johnson was talking about. So there's a lot of communication in the Republican Party amongst the ranks on how they're going to submit these proposals or these bills or whatever, and they're doing it repetitively. I think that with the judicial, this might be the first one to come out of a senator, but I don't think it's the first one in general. And then if you look at what Mike Johnson's doing, let me pull this up here real quick.
While you're pulling that up, I just want to make a comment that, in a way, this is kind of lawfare. In the exact way that they were like, oh, the Democrats are using lawfare against Trump to get him to back out. Every accusation is a confession with these people.
It really is. Mm-hmm. It really is.
Every time. They blame the Democrats of doing lawfare. As soon as they get the levers of power, they're doing lawfare.
Well, and
there's so many stories that come out. What do they call that? A Gilgamesh? A Galapagos? What
oh, now you had to say Galapagos.
Yes.
with the turtle.
With this fucking chocolate turtle in your mouth.
No, the tactic.
Oh yeah, where they just throw as much shit against the wall as possible.
Gish Gash?
Gish Gallop.
Gish Gallop.
Gash, that's it.
All right, so like you look at Mike Johnson, he's been a strong advocate for conservative judicial policies. But he does it in a way where he's really just trying to enforce his religious conservatism first and foremost. He's talked about removing funding and impeaching judges. He's been a vocal supporter of appointing conservative originalist judges in the federal courts. Praised Trump's,
which basically just means religious zealots,
and that's it.
Impose their belief on everyone.
This is what I'm saying is people don't realize that they're confusing the language. You know, again, Kirk Nolan, friend of the show, one of the things that has been first and foremost on his mind lately is how they're utilizing the language, and we need to take the language back. You know, so the idea that they're saying
back.
Well, the idea that they're saying that conservative principles, okay? Well, that's just a nice way of saying religious.
We're going to fuck you in the ass.
Well, religious. Well, what kind of religion? Well, Christian. You know, we didn't need...
They say Judeo-Christian, but what that means is
Christian.
American Protestant.
Again, that movie Civil War, you're American.
What kind of American? Yeah, I mean, it's exactly that. At some point, and by the way, that movie was shit. However,
I'm from Missouri. See, that's real American.
Yeah. So that actually, that piece of the movie with Jesse Plemons, as most people know him, Fat Matt Damon,
and the guy that gets typecast as a Nazi in everything that he's in.
Yeah, but to his benefit, or to his credit,
comedies.
Yeah, to his credit, he has actually lost a bunch of weight and looks really good, and he just looks like a Matt Damon relative.
Clone? Yeah.
No, not clone, just like a third cousin.
Hello, John Damon.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like when you find out that Brad Pitt has a brother, and you look at his brother and you go, I see it, but I don't see it.
Well, yeah, it's like all the Hemsworths, right?
Exactly. We all know they're all pretty decent looking, but we also know who the top
Damon,
two are.
Isn't he the guy that keeps getting bumped from the Jimmy Kimmel show?
Yes, that's the rumor. But see, this type of assault, and I do mean assault on the judiciary, is something that is not front page news. And you've heard me say this time and time again, it's the little stories. Because those little stories are the ones that are happening behind the scenes that are going to actually have a lot of impact on people, but it's a boring story.
And it's the Steve Bannon strategy of if we put out 100 things a day, they're only going to grab onto 2 or 3.
Right.
And that leaves 97 or 98 that we can slide through.
Yeah, and they'll keep throwing them in, and they slide them in. I'll give you a perfect example of that, and it actually gets us to where we wanted to go anyway. The idea that originally Trump was joking about a third term. And it was clear at that time, the way he was presenting it, was clear that he was saying this, I'm just joking, right?
Yeah, but then Heritage Foundation was like, wait, there might be something there. And Steve Bannon was interviewed and asked about that, and he said, we're working on it.
Yeah, and wouldn't give any details, right? But
yeah.
I mean, the problem that you run into is this little thing called the 22nd Amendment.
Yeah, a constitutional amendment, the document that they apparently love to, hold so dear.
Yeah, they hold it dear when it benefits them, and then they shit on it and wipe their asses with it when it doesn't benefit them.
Again, the only constitutional amendment they give a fuck about is the Second Amendment.
Well, they care.
I seem to remember one Mike Pompeo, who was asked about the peaceful transition from Trump to Biden, who announced on network news that there will absolutely be a perfect and peaceful transition to another Trump term.
Yeah. Yes. And that was not accidental. That was specific. No. He was telling you the only way that this is going to happen is if it's Trump. And he was telegraphing to everyone, if it's not Trump, it's not going to be peaceful. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is the thing is we're in this it's like the upside down. It's the you can't walk through your day without somebody trying to gaslight you on a news story or a position or whatever. And it's enough. It's fucking enough. Truth is
That
truth.
you just said magic words there, because that's kind of how I feel, is that we're living in the upside down.
Everything's
Yeah.
gone crazy. Now,
Somehow we've fallen into that world.
Well, and it's horrifically Orwellian in the sense of truth is lies, lies are truth. 2 + 2 is 5. You know,
you do know there's
Dogs and cats living together.
you do know that there's a theory behind that, right? And oddly, it came from a little kid who was like this little mega genius. And he was saying that alternate realities do exist.
Mhm.
And you can shift into an alternate reality. And he believed that during COVID, our reality,
shifted.
our existence shifted about a degree, right? And
Yeah, just enough to fuck everything up, but not enough to make things noticeably weird.
yeah, so like,
Just not enough to be a Kevin Bacon.
well, it was one of those things. It was one of those things where the kind of the way he was explaining it, or they were explaining it, was it's not enough to of a shift to where you thought you had a red car and you come out and it's a white car, but enough of a shift to where what you thought was truth is now a lie, and what was a lie is now truth, and not just subtly, like everywhere. And they compared it to the Mandela effect. They compared it to a number of different principles, but that was the gist of it. So anyways, now we're in a situation where Trump is actually not joking anymore. And I don't think that he was ever honestly joking. And even when he said
No,
on
he
day
just
one,
played it off like he was.
yeah, even when he
didn't
goes
wanna scare
on day
folks
one, I'm
away.
going to be a dictator.
Yeah, he
He's
doesn't
done that.
joke. He gauges reaction.
Yeah, he does. He gauges reaction. And so here,
It's a joke if you think I'm joking.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And if you don't think I'm joking, how do you feel about that? And if you're good with it, then I'm not joking. But if you were bad with it, I'm fucking joking. What's the matter with you? So
It's the governmental equivalent of like texting a female friend like titty pics. Lol, just kidding.
Yeah.
But maybe.
yeah, exactly. So that's a perfect way. That's exactly what it is, actually. And he's doing that with the entire country, right? But so let's just, so everyone knows, 22nd Amendment to the U.S. Constitution would need to be repealed or modified. The amendment, ratified in 1951, states no person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice. Very cut and dry. So what would need to happen? Well,
It does not say, importantly, twice in a row. It says twice.
right. It seems to me that that's pretty clear language there.
Yeah, which Trump's whole argument and his team's whole argument is, well, what we want to do is make it so you can only be elected twice in a row.
Right.
But if you got elected and then lost an election and then came back, you can still do 2 terms.
Well, what if you,
time in office?
Yeah, and what they're saying is because they're trying to make sure that they don't have to fight Obama in an election.
Because if Obama came back, they would fucking lose.
Exactly. So the only way that this can happen, according to kind of what they're trying to slide in, is this very perfect little caveat just for Trump, which is you get elected, you lose an election or choose not to run, but you've only been in office once.
Yeah.
And then you come back and you can run again twice. Which is
you
bullshit.
You weren't in office twice in a row. You weren't in
Right.
for a full 8 years.
So they're trying to play some sort of semantic game. All right, but here's the thing. According to the way this was originally written, this is what would have to happen. 1, a constitutional amendment process. Since the 22nd Amendment is part of the Constitution, removing or changing it requires one of these methods. Congressional proposal, a 2/3 majority vote in both House of Representatives and the Senate, then 3/4, 38 out of 50 of the states must ratify it. Constitutional Convention, 2/3, 34 of the state legislatures could call for a constitutional convention. They're pushing for that. They want a constitutional convention.
There's already 29 states who have called as of 2 years ago for a constitutional.
Now, whether that number holds, I'm not sure, but I do know that they're definitively, they've got a hard on.
They're gunning for it.
Yeah, they're gunning for a constitutional convention, and it's not just because they want to get Trump a third term. There's a lot of other things that they would do in this
They would get rid of the First Amendment, just off the top of my head, because political speech that is against the administration.
I don't think they
convenient for the administration.
I don't think that they would get rid of it, but I think that they would modify it so that you could not criticize the president.
Yeah, they would do that. They would make it so you also couldn't criticize Israel, because that's kind of their whole campaign right now.
Well, I mean that's to be. I'm talking broad right now, and the one thing I know is when it comes to freedom of speech, they would get rid of criticism for politicians. The whole reason it exists is so that you can criticize your fucking elected officials, but they would get rid of that.
Literally no other purpose of the First Amendment other than the ability to freely and without consequence criticize in a nonviolent fashion your elected officials, put news stories out about them that are truthful. That's an important aspect. It has to be truthful. And, the right to freely assemble, things like that.
Well,
which again are just inconvenient for the Trump administration. So I think it's going to end up being, if they were to go that route, it would be you still have freedom of speech, but some speech is freer than other speech.
And you know how they wedge that through? Pornography.
Yeah,
they will use pornography as the jimmy for the lock on that.
I think it would be that, and also support for Palestinian rights and Palestinian freedom.
I can honestly foresee Republicans pushing through anti-pornography bills, but also legalizing underage sex workers or girls.
Well, I don't think they're gonna do sex workers.
I could see that.
Only because I don't think they'll do sex work, because that's liberal. What I do think, to your point,
it's not liberal if you're 80 years old in a red state and you got a boner. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
No, but what I'm getting at is what I do think that they would try to do is lower the age of consent to a ridiculous level, and legalize child marriage.
I could actually see them lowering the age of consent to as soon as you have a girl has her period.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a firm number. It would be, have you gotten your period? You're legal now.
Because this is fucking Game of Thrones.
And that, but that goes to their obsessive nature when it comes to anti-abortion, and obsessive nature when it comes to everyone who participates in sex needs to have a baby.
Any American woman in the audience, they want you barefoot and pregnant. They want you not to have rights. They want you not to have a job.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that is clearly, people would hear that and say, even like a year ago, would say, you're being a bit much, right? But that's actually proven out. That's actually being shown that that's what their goals are. And
it will start with the right to vote, which is being challenged in Texas for women.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll get to that in
one thing that I just want to point out. I saw an interesting piece of analysis about kind of the right wing perspective on women, that I think kind of bears out when you look at the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was someone that had tweeted, or maybe it was on Tumblr, I'm not sure what it was, but it was just a screenshot, that said, I would rather every woman be obnoxiously into astrology than every man be into the alpha, beta, sigma shit. Because women that are into astrology are like, oh my God, I'm a Gemini, I can't date a Libra,
right,
or whatever. Men who are into the alpha, beta, sigma shit are like, women should be slaves.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's gotten out of hand already, but the direction that this is going is so toxic. Not only
you already got an earring, why not get a tag in it?
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously,
let's get you numbered so we know your number. Once we know your number, we know what to do with you. So, anyways, the
We can
Constitution.
get the ASPCA to tag you. We can just scan you. You
I
know
wouldn't
when
be
you
And
mention
if you
surprised.
run away, we can find you.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they said that we need to, chip women like we do dogs.
Mhm.
All right, back to this. Constitutional convention, 2/3 of the states, 34 states would call for the Constitutional Convention. The amendment would then need to be approved by from 3/4 of the states. This process is difficult and time consuming, making it highly unlikely in the short term. And I do agree with that. I don't think that any of the legal ways to do this are going to probably be the way that they try to get this done. I think they're going to
No,
try to
they're
find
gonna-
an end game.
They're going to exploit every loophole they possibly can so they don't do a constitutional convention, because the reality is even blue states want a constitutional convention because there are so many inequities within the Constitution that they feel that needs to be addressed. Only problem being, if they were to go to a constitutional convention, blue states are outnumbered.
Well, here's the thing. It's interesting you say loopholes. So here are some of the legal challenges or loopholes. There are some hypothetical workarounds, but they are legally uncertain. Vice president, presidency first. Trump could hypothetically run as vice president, then ascend to the presidency if the elected president steps down or is removed. However, this would likely face legal challenges. Two,
Also, you can't serve more than 10 years is what I saw. So that kind of nips that in the bud. And my understanding could be incorrect here, but from my understanding, the 22nd Amendment has an understanding that sometimes people die,
mhm,
and if that person happens to be the president, the vice president would then become the president and serve the rest of that term.
right.
And within that, it makes a provision that if you're serving as a vice president that became president for 2 years or less, then you can still run for your 2 terms,
Right. That's how I understand it too.
which is what LBJ was able to do, but didn't take the opportunity to.
Right. And good for
Because-
him, because had he done that, he would have literally died. I think it was 2 days after he was out of office or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So the point being, he served, what would that be, like a year and some change,
Yes.
for the remainder of JFK's term.
And then
He then won re-election.
correct.
At the end of that term, he had the ability to run for a second full term, but he didn't.
Okay, so now this is where I think the vast majority of their argument is a temporary break in service. Some have debated whether a non-consecutive third term, example would be returning after another president serves, could be legal under a specific interpretation of the amendment. But most legal scholars reject this idea. So that's the one that they're trying to play with, I think. 3, political and public support. Even if it is legal, even if a legal path existed, repealing the 22nd Amendment would require strong public and political support, which is unlikely given bipartisan opposition to the unlimited presidential terms. In short, a constitutional amendment is the only straightforward way for Trump to run for a third term, and that's an extremely difficult hurdle to clear. However,
'cause
that
in the same way that it was a constitutional amendment to impose prohibition on alcohol, and then it took another constitutional amendment to rescind that.
right, but when you have your Speaker of the House willing to pull the purse strings closed for the judiciary and willing to go on mass impeachment tour of the judiciary, I think it's very safe to say that they might be able to overcome these hurdles utilizing Mike Johnson and the Republican Congress in wiping out any of the major judges that would have any decision on this, excluding the Supreme Court, which they've already got in their pocket.
Really quick, a breaking news across my computer screen from no less than Newsweek. So it's got credibility.
Okay.
But for the first time since World War II, German armed forces have entered Lithuania and lined up at the border to Russia.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Oh,
So, look, at the end of the day, if we don't end up in World War III because of Trump, that'll be a shock, in my opinion.
Between Trump, Putin, and Xi.
Yeah, I think
And I guess kind of Lil Kim, but I mean, he's not really that.
He's not a major player anymore. I don't think he's a major player.
More and more, I am becoming respectful of Xi. Xi.
I mean, he
whatever.
can run a competent country. You know,
But
I have my criticisms of the Chinese government.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. But there are things that he's been doing the last few months that make you go, huh. In a sense of things that the U.S. should be doing, but isn't, and
Yeah.
he's doing.
Again,
Such as he has threatened Israel, saying, "Hey, get out of these countries, or else."
Yeah. Also, with Xi, obviously, China messes. They pump up their GDP numbers.
Yes.
But so does America. So does every
Yes.
other developed country. According to the numbers that they've released, they are currently on par with Russia's GDP, which, to be fair, isn't saying much. But Russia's been stagnated at their current.
Potato.
Yeah, they've been stagnated at their current GDP level in Russia.
Our
With
GDP is potato.
some spikes, some dips, but right around the same area. China has met that and is on an upward trajectory, smooth. So like even with my criticisms of them like fluffing the numbers, so does America, so does every developed nation. They're on an upward trajectory. They're pulling people out of poverty, which for a country of what, like 1.2 billion,
yeah,
kind of impressive.
I mean, look, again, I don't care if it's a broken clock, it's right twice a day. And you have to give credit where credit is due, even if you disagree with their political policies, even if you disagree with their politics in general. At the end of the day, if something works and it works for the benefit of the people and the benefit of the country, that's probably something that's pretty good, and you should say, attaboy. My problem is that we're in a situation in this country where Trump was handed a pretty easy takeover. The economy was moving forward. Things were looking better.
All he had to do was not be Trump.
All he had to do was nothing. All he had to do was just show up and sit in that chair.
Yeah.
And he couldn't even do that. So, frankly, the way I see this is the economic disaster that is about to occur is all on Trump. It's not, he can't blame Biden because those numbers were good when he handed it over.
The snowball's already rolling.
Yeah, it really is.
It's just getting bigger at this point.
You know, and you're seeing, I think you're seeing the beginnings of people fighting back. You know, obviously you see that with Tesla, you know, the decline in sales, the decline in its stock, investor confidence. You're seeing the challenges,
the widespread protests.
Yeah, I mean, so you're starting to see, you know, and even when it comes to Elon, it you know, like he's not really a government official, but he's a temporary government official. And in the course of that, he's getting a lot of personal setbacks, whether you're talking about Grimes coming out and hinting that he likes to get pegged, or the paternity disputes. He's had public disputes with influencer Ashley St. Clair. You're seeing,
which was his mistress,
right? And right? That's what I'm saying is like,
and his trans daughter.
You see that, you're seeing, you know, so you're seeing a lot of his
pushback. Daughter called him straight out a piece of shit. Literally her words.
Yeah. So I mean,
my father is a piece of shit.
Little X will find out sooner or later.
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think Little X is like his pride and joy of all 13, 14 kids that he has. I don't know why. Maybe he reminds him of him at a younger age. Maybe Little X is a little bit on the spectrum as well, like he is. I don't know. All I know is it's fun to watch Little X smacking him on the head.
Did you see the video of basically Donald Trump babysitting?
Yeah,
the kid. Yeah.
The only thing that was funnier was when they were in the Oval Office and Little X was on the shoulders and he made this like face like, oh God, I've had enough. Exact same face was being made by Trump at the exact same time. It was like 2 4-year-olds had enough.
Yeah, to me, that was even funnier when Little X leaned over to Trump and said, "What are you doing in my dad's desk?"
Exactly. And with that, that's another Elsie's Little Pickles.